Entertainment industry in Nigeria is one of the country's fastest growing industries, but it fails to command the level of financing that is required to unlock its full potential. I'm now joined by Obi Asika, CEO of Storm Records, for an outlook on the industry. Obi, thanks for your time, and I'm hoping you can hear me loud and clear because, of course, we're communicators.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so let's talk about the Nigerian film industry. Let me share a personal opinion. I'm both frustrated as well as excited by the production of film in Nigeria. I'm excited because it is stories about Africans. It is stories that everybody across the continent resonates with. But I'm also frustrated by sometimes the poor production, the poor acting, the poor storytelling that we see. How do we fix this so that Nollywood, from where it is, even without anyone's help, grows into the big force that it can be?
Well, I mean, thanks a lot for the question. I think the first thing is that you have to understand the circumstances in which these guys have been making these movies. And I think in the first instances, one has to appreciate the fact that they've been able to tell these stories and make these movies, frankly, with incredibly small budgets and lack of production resources. There is no doubt in terms of technical production quality, there are some issues at times, but the key issue is the narrative, and the narrative is already connecting globally. Yeah. You will find that Nollywood is getting something like 40 million views a month on YouTube worldwide into about 110 countries. So that has to be commended. What we need is further investment in theatrical distribution to create more revenue back for filmmakers. Yeah.
So how do we do that?
Well, I think it's already beginning to happen, and one has to actually commend the government here in Nigeria. Yeah. This president has engaged the creative sector more than any other president we've had previously, both with the strategic fund they've got in place with the Bank of Industry, which although people are still having issues accessing it, and they've just set up an intervention fund which hopefully will attack distribution. I've been involved in some of those efforts, and it is difficult because part of the issue is the financial sector here is disconnected from the creative community. Yeah. So I think as we get better education on both sides, then we'll be able to get some forward movement as well.
Yeah, now the World Bank has identified some issues that are hindering future growth as piracy, and then the lack of funding, we've just spoken about that, and the lack of distribution and marketing network, lack of film studios, as well as poor production techniques. How do we address those?
Well, I think the issue of piracy is an issue of information, an issue of education. Yeah. We have a situation in Nigeria where our productive capacity for optical discs is about 2 billion discs a year. Yeah. And you know, we are definitely driving consumption into West Africa. So Nigerian content is the global content that everybody's looking for. But again, as you said, we want to enhance production values. We want to create more content. And I think the investment now needs to go into content production, not just into physical infrastructure. Yeah. The banks are very comfortable with real estate asset-based financing, but they also have to get involved in financing IP. Yeah. And I think once you begin to finance IP and you understand what the developed economies of the West have done, the US, the UK, even South Africa with the IDC, then you begin to see where the real opportunities lie. Yeah,
but that IP also needs to be protected in law, isn't it? What has the government done on that front to make sure that people who put in their sweat, who put in their money, are actually able to reap the full benefits without some people coming in and ripping them off?
Well, I think it's an entire value chain, right? So you've got to commend the Copyright Commission with a very strong regulation, and the Nigerian Film and Video Censor Board. Both of them are very strong in terms of regulation. They do lack resources in terms of implementation and enforcement, which is the key issue. But the piracy here, really what had happened was that it was coming in from the Far East, and those guys invested in the plants in Nigeria. So the people who need protection now are those of us who produce content, because nobody who makes an optical disc loses money, okay? And that's the reality of it. So in terms of and part of the issue as well, of course, I told you there are less than 60 cinema screens in Nigeria. So you can see the opportunity on the upside, where if we get back to where we were in the 70s with 10,000 screens, all I will do all day is make movies.
Yeah. Now, do you want the government to be involved at all? Because this is an industry that has grown, if you like, despite the government. Do you want the government to come in and help at all?
Well, I think you need the government to come in terms of regulation, in terms of the conducive environment, in terms of encouraging the banks, the developmental financial institutions and the commercial banks and the investment banks to begin to look at this very seriously. And I think that is happening. But we certainly don't want the government to be involved in the business of creativity, because I don't think the government has proven to be a good businessman at any level in any of the sectors, in any country, not even just in Nigeria. So I think it's a sort of, you know, softly approach. You want them involved, you want their attention. I mean, I talk all the time about Nigerian soft power. I believe our music and our movies go much further than the country. Yeah, they go much further ahead, they go into all the markets, and if our government and our companies can learn how to leverage that, then I think we'll find a happy medium for everybody.